Okay, we're live. All right, welcome everybody to the Fitman Movement Podcast. Tonight we have a special guest. We have our very first guest of the podcast. Her name is Ellie Usey, and she is going to give us a bit about her story and how she went from, stay-at-home, or not stay-at-home mom, working mom of two, and ended up competing in the Beachbody Classic physique competition last month in the city of Nashville. So just to kind of let you know, I worked with Elsie a little bit. I'm sorry, Ellie a little bit leading up to the competition. I didn't really give her a nutrition plan per se or a training plan or anything like that, but I helped her. She had some questions along the way, so I just kind of guided her where she had some questions, and after that I followed up with her and asked her if she'd be willing to come on the podcast and give us her story, and so that's what we're going to do tonight. So Ellie, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks, we're doing great. I've got Brendan and Jared here. They're on mute right now, so if they have questions, I'm sure they'll chime in. But why don't we start first off by, giving everyone a little bit of information, a little bit of background about you, maybe how you got started with health and fitness, with Beachbody, all that good stuff. And you can share, like I said, as little or as much as you'd like, just to kind of give everybody, where you're coming from.
Sure. Before I had children, I was actually very into health and fitness. I worked at a gym, but after I had kids, my first kid particularly, my mindset changed. Just working 40 plus hours a week, really, I put myself through a lot of guilt for doing just that. So the thought of even trying to fit out a workout into my day was pretty much non-existent. I didn't think that it would work. I didn't think that it was an opportunity for me, and I kind of just let it go, as well as let myself go and my health go. And I just worked and was a mom and wife. Um, when my daughter was 18 months, I was in a car accident where I broke my femur, and I had to have a metal rod permanently inserted through my femur and learn how to walk again. It was kind of at that moment that I realized that you only are given one life, one chance at health, and that we really have to make the most out of the body we've been given. So as soon as I could, I started walking and jogging, and as soon as I kind of regained my health back, I got pregnant for my second child. And as much as I wanted that to be a super active and healthy pregnancy, it didn't work out too much like that. I was barely could make it through the day without throwing up. So I just kind of survived those 9 months. But the whole time I was pregnant with my second child, it was definitely in my head that I was ready to get my body back. I was done having children, and I was beyond ready to be healthy again. So I had two C-sections. So after the 8 weeks, I was released. I was super ready to get back started, and I only lasted a week and a half of doing workouts. Life had some difficult circumstances for us. And not only was I a new mom of two and my toddler was rebelling, I was starting a brand new job. And the hardest part about that time was that we just lost my mother-in-law at 54 to cancer pretty unexpectedly. And it was very hard for me, but it was obviously really tough for my husband to lose his mom. So the support just wasn't there. And so I quit. And I felt sorry for myself. And a lot of people think that all I lost was my baby weight, but actually at that point, I gained 15 pounds just from eating my sorrows away. So after about 2 months of just eating and stress eating, I saw a picture of myself, which Chris posted my transformation picture. It's that picture in that red one piece. I saw that picture of myself, and it just kind of hit me really hard. I just realized that that's not who I wanted to be, and that I was tired of making excuses. I was tired of my own bullshit, and that the only person who could change and make a change was me. So I started again, and then I never gave up. And so kind of is where my transformation began. Um, about 22 months later, I lost about 20 pounds. And then in 6 months, I lost about 30, which took me 35, which took me to my pre-baby weight. And then I kind of stayed there for a while. And I stayed content being there for a good long while. And that's kind of my story, Chris.
Yeah, no, that is incredible. So I've never heard your story before, and that's just really inspiring. So I definitely applaud you for all of that you've had to overcome to get to where you are. That is awesome. Um,
Yeah, and I'll definitely second that, especially during an injury when, most people I think use that. I hate to say as an excuse, but most people say, well, I'm down, I'm out, I'm a mom, I've got all these hours going on. Every reason in the book you basically had just to put it off to the side. I mean, losing somebody. And I think this is a shining example, not just for women, but, I mean, even guys, listen to what she had to go through, because this is, doesn't matter, male, female, young, old, whatever. I mean, this is real life. This stuff happens, and she's able to do it. And I mean, she just, and like Chris said, she has an amazing story. So, Ellie, that's very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellie, quick question. How long was it from the time you had the accident to the time you could actually jog? Not just walk, but actually go for a jog. What kind of time period was that?
It was probably about, they told me it would take 6 months to walk again, and I'm pretty hard-headed. So it took me, and I had a child. I had an 18-month who wanted to run and play, so that was a huge motivation. So I think it took me 2 months to walk without a walker. I wobbled a lot for a long time with a cane. It probably took me about 6 months before I could do a slow jog, but it was not pretty. It was it was kind of like a limp-legged jog, and so I did that. So it was about 6 months, and it got better as my leg got stronger. But it was never anything pretty, and it certainly wasn't fast. It was maybe like an 11-minute mile, I guess, at my best. So I would say about
Still.
6 months. 6 months.
yeah, that's amazing.
That's a long 6 months.
Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I have kids, and obviously I have a wife who takes care of the majority of the responsibility with those kids, in terms of the day-to-day. I know how much time that takes, and having to juggle everything that you would have had to have gone through is definitely tough. So I definitely can appreciate everything you've gone through there. That is awesome. Okay, so let's we want to try and talk a little bit about your competition and your prep for that competition. So one of the first things that I always kind of am interested to hear or to find out is, like, at what point did you say, I am going to do this? This is something that I want to do, and here are kind of the reasons why.
Okay, well, it kind of kept coming up. In 2015, one of my best friends decided she was going to do it and begged me to do it with her. And I just kept saying, like, there's no way that I can dedicate that much of myself and my time to that. Like, not me. Just didn't think it was for me, and that I was even capable of doing something like that, and being so strict on my eating, especially. So I watched her do it, and I kind of had that FOMO. Like, the whole time she was doing it, I was a little bit sad that I said no. She had amazing opportunities brought to her because of it. Then around January, my husband and one of my friends started talking about doing it. And again, I kind of dismissed it. But then I started really realizing that I had been content at where I was at for a very long time. I lost my baby weight, and I was settling, and I was actually kind of starting to take baby steps backwards a little bit because I was getting a little comfortable. So I really started to embrace the idea of a challenge, just doing something that would really push me out my comfort zone and really kind of scare the crap out of me. I mean, I would never put on a little bitty bikini and go in front of anyone.
Sure.
But I started seeing how that could make things more of a challenge and make me really push myself more and stop being so content. So I guess it was January of 2016 that I decided to go ahead and make that my New Year's resolution. Not resolution, but my New Year goal was to do the Beachbody Classic.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, that would have been roughly 8 months before the competition, maybe 7.5, somewhere in there. It just depends on where you officially started. But so that's a really good window for people who are thinking about doing some sort of competition to really commit to. So if you aren't willing or able to commit to a 6 to 7 month window of competition prep, then maybe you're just not quite ready to do that, or if you're not able to commit to that 6 months, then you have to be able to expect or understand that you're not going to be at the level that maybe some of the other people would be at that period of time. So if you're not able to give yourself 16 to 17 to 20 weeks of competition prep time, that's really what you're looking at if you really want to be serious about it. So I had kind of the same experience because I went to the Beachbody competition in 2013, and one of my friends was competing, and I wasn't real serious about actually doing it, but I was like, yeah, it'd be kind of cool to do it. But then in 2014, I made the commitment roughly the same period of time. It was actually maybe a little bit later. It might have been in February when I actually committed to doing it. And yeah, it was kind of the same deal where it was kind of a challenge to myself, and help me stay committed, help me progress more so than I probably would have otherwise. So those are all awesome aspirations and reasons why something like a competition like this can be good. It can actually drive you to excel and actually improve where you are. So yeah.
Hey Chris, I think you and I should compete this coming year. What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I would more than happy to support you, but I think I'm done competing for now. And we'll get into some of that, right? Because we're going to talk a little bit about how Ellie kind of struggled through her prep. And so why don't we maybe unless Jared, you've got something that you wanted to chime in on about that at all?
No, I'm enjoying all this, actually. I'm enjoying just sitting back and listening to all this. It's a great story.
So as I kind of alluded to or teased in the leading up to this podcast, competition prep is not all glitz and glamour. It's not all what you see on social media. It's not everything is going the best and everything's it's not exactly smooth sailing the entire time. So why don't you talk about some of the struggles that you experienced going through that prep?
Sure. So right off the bat, obviously, I had to make some changes in my schedule to adapt for the increased training. Up until that point, I was doing 30 minutes of cardio a day, and I knew that I would need to do some weightlifting. So I chose to do hammer and chisel as my first program, and I had to start waking up at 4:30 in the morning to fit in those longer workouts. They some were 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the days that they had doubles, which was double what I was already doing. So I started waking up at 4:30 in the morning, which was, I mean, if anyone's ever woken up at 4:30 in the morning, it's not very fun. And also, I still had many sleepless nights because I have children, and it doesn't matter how old they are, they still don't want to sleep. So I had to be consistent. I started incorporating weekend workouts, which I've always been a Monday through Thursday-ish type person. So I had to be a lot more serious with my workout regimen. So that was definitely a physical change I had to get used to. And all of the research recommends getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and I tried really hard, but like my average was like 6 if I was lucky. So that was just kind of something I had to deal with, was the physical exhaustion and just pushing through. At that point, the eating didn't really come into play because I was in my bulking phase, which I didn't necessarily do the cleanest bulking phase. I kind of just ate, and I ended up losing inches, but I put on 3 pounds in the process. But pretty satisfied with my results.
Ellie, if I can ask you real quick, when you said you were doing doubles, I mean, how many times a week were you doing these, just to kind of give people a feel?
Just like sometimes at the end of the workout, there's an addition on top of a 45-minute workout. There's like a 15-minute ab exercise. So I never doubled up any workout regimen. I just did it as the program laid it out. So sometimes there was like, I have the schedule looking right here at me. Just sometimes there's like a 45-minute workout with a 15-minute ab workout, or there's like a cardio with a 15-minute glute. So that was a 45-minute program. So I was doing it as the schedule laid out. So I was only doing one program this entire 8 months that I did it. I only did one program. I never was able to double up.
And the reason I bring that up is because I think a lot of people think you have to be in the gym for like 3 hours and you have to get 8 hours of sleep and like all the rest of this. So if you guys are listening, don't think she did like 4 hours in the gym, ate no carbs, and all the rest of this. I mean, the way that Beachbody lays it out is designed to help you get to where you want to be with consistent action over time. So I wanted to kind of clarify that. I think we could sort of have a misconception. So, okay, continue.
Less than an hour a day from the room I'm sitting in. If you can see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So at that point, after hammer and chisel was done, I kind of panicked because at that point I was weighing in, I'm 5'6". I was weighing in at 138, and I spoke with a bikini competitor who does like pro level stuff, and she's like, well, to be lean enough, you'll need to get down to 120. So all I was thinking was, that's 18 pounds. And I have like 18 weeks, I guess. I don't know, maybe it was more than that, 20 weeks. And I'm thinking like, that's a pound a week. It's kind of a lot for me because I've never seen myself below 130. Like 130 has always been a plateau that I hit hard. So at that point that's when the panic kind of set in, I guess. And I started Body Beast, and I immediately did the lean phase, which I shifted to macros at that point. From Body, and then I started really paying close attention to my food and what they recommended. And I did Body Beast for 60 days, lean phase, and I lost 10 pounds from that, bringing me to 128. The bigger problem for me was that, and it wasn't necessarily a problem, it was kind of like a problem and a solution, and it's kind of, I'll have to explain. So when I decided to join Beachbody Classic, there was a support group available. It was a private Facebook group for people who were also completing a Beachbody Classic, which is amazing because it's those support groups that have gotten me this far. The problem is that, as I mentioned before, I was content with my body. I was okay with it. I was happy with my transformation. But what I got caught up in was I started comparing myself to all the other women in the group. Some of these women were doing 2 and 3 workouts a day, like Body Beast and Hammer and Chisel and Insanity. And I'm like, okay, I could barely get in 1 workout a day without dying. So how am I supposed to compete with that? I don't have that kind of time in my life. And their transformations, I would see, their quads or their biceps that were developing so much more than mine, and I would get really hard on myself. And so I started to kind of like internalize that and compare myself against every other person. And that started to kind of take, an impact. So I was constantly I knew it was wrong and I shouldn't be doing it, but I kind of kept falling into the trap. And it made me really insecure, not only with my body, but within the steps I was taking to make the transformation, which is kind of around the time that I messaged Chris, because a lot of these girls who were getting really good results were working with Chris. They kept saying that they were getting meal plans from Chris. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to be getting a meal plan from Chris. I messaged him, and like, he was really chill. Like, he's like, you're not doing anything wrong. Let's make a few minor tweaks. Like, you're doing great. And so we kind of did that. And then
I told her to eat more carbs, and she loved it.
We did. Actually, this was after that, Chris. This was after that. So
it was after that. Okay.
A few tweaks first. Then I decided that I was really like at a plateau again. So I decided to do carb cycling, the way it's laid out in 21 Day Fix Extreme. And at this point, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around. So I did Body Beast. I lost 10 pounds. I went back to Hammer and Chisel. And when I did hammer and chisel, I did the 21-day basic extreme countdown competition meal plan, which is carb cycling. And after about 2 of my 6 weeks that I planned on doing carb cycling, I woke up and I felt really bad, like worse than ever. And I drove to work that morning and I blacked out. And I have something called like reactive hypoglycemia, which my blood sugar, when it drops, it overcorrects itself and it really drops. And I've really had it under control for years now. It's not been a problem. And it kind of was like my little ghost that crept back up. So at that point, I realized that, and this is when I messaged Chris and was kind of like in full-blown panic mode. Like, I still have 8 pounds to lose, and I'm at a plateau, and I tried this carb cycling, and I just passed out, like, freaking out. And so that's when he actually increased my carbs. He actually, we stuck with the carb cycling, but we did it a little different, and it made me more consistent with my carbs through the week. So I was more consistent. My carbs weren't as high and low. Kind of filled in the gap. And I did that up until peak week, and then I followed Chris's peak week exactly, which I lost 7 pounds in that last week, which was insane. And I actually got down to 119. So it was pretty cool. But like, yeah, emotional. I knew this process would be physical, and I knew it would be a lot mentally, but the emotional aspect really threw me off a lot.
Yeah.
It really, I'm an emotionally strong person, but it really beat me up. Like, it was definitely challenging, and I think a lot of times you feel isolated because no one really understands what you're doing, and they make fun of you a lot. And I kind of think it's funny because I'm from Louisiana, so I don't know if y'all know about Louisiana, but everything is about food and alcohol. So every party, every weekend was about food and alcohol, and I would constantly have to say no, and people would make fun of me or say ugly things like, oh yeah, you're too skinny to eat our food, or, you know, because they didn't understand, like, it's not that I don't want to eat it or that I don't like it or that I won't ever eat it again. It's just not in my life right now. So people, including my mom, were like really ugly, and it was hurtful. And so that kind of was hard for me.
How was it staying away from the alcohol?
That was hard.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a great point that I think a lot of people don't really consider when they're getting into a competition like that or prep for a competition. They don't really feel like, oh, I can handle that, or I've done worse, or I've done this and this, so I think I can handle this. But you're right. I mean, you really do feel like you're isolated, and if you don't have someone there, obviously you had your husband to help support you, and I'm sure you had other people there as well. But you know, they're few and far between, right? So the majority of the people, like you said, just don't really understand what you're trying to do. They see it as, you know, you're putting yourself through something that is negative in some way, and they don't appreciate that you might have some goals that you're trying to accomplish, or, you know, it's just something that you're trying to do to prove to yourself that you can do it, you know, whatever the reason is. But you're right. You know, a lot of times the mental aspect of it is more challenging than anything else. I mean, I can eat the same foods every day for 2 weeks solid. I can do crazy hard workouts, but when you come down to it, like, and you see other people having results and you never see the results in yourself, it really becomes stressful. You know, you really start to get to a point where you're doubting yourself, and, you know, self-doubt leads to all kinds of mind games leading up to, you know, competition day. And so, yeah, I definitely can appreciate what you're talking about there.
Right.
I
All
love
right.
what you're saying, Ellie, about the comparison traps. I think that's my favorite part so far, and because I think there's so many people out there that just look at images on TV and magazines and movies and everything, and it's so easy to fall into that comparison trap. And I think it's awesome that you were able to overcome it.
Well, and too, Jared, on that front, it's not even if you're competing or planning to compete, right? So if you're just getting started, and someone else may have started at the same time, and, you know, you don't necessarily always see results in the same way.
No, exactly.
That's really, you know, where you have to be focused on your own goal, focused on your own plan, and not be too concerned about how everybody else is doing. Now, use it as motivation, use it as, something you want to accomplish, but don't make it something that's going to derail you, effect, like Ellie was alluding to.
Focus on yourself and your journey and your successes.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about the actual competition, because I think that's probably something that everyone's like, well, what's it like and what do you do? So maybe just kind of give a little bit about what was prejudging like, and what was it like going up on the stage, and were you nervous, or once you got up there, did you kind of the nerves go away, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, prejudging is interesting. Like you get spray tan, kind of like an Oompa Loompa, and and you spray Pam on yourself, which was quite interesting to me. And you eat like a lot of sugar, like you load yourself with sugar after you've been avoiding these things forever. So that was kind of really interesting for me. I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be, like actually just hanging out in the bikini. But once I got up on the little stage for prejudging, and they were just, there was like this, I mean, I don't know how other competitions were, but there was definitely like stripper music. And like, no, like for real, it was definitely interesting questions. And like, it was just three judges staring at us on a pretty wobbly little setup, or maybe that was just me. So that's kind of when my nerves kicked in. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have any professional posing coach. I didn't really know what I was doing. I watched a few YouTube videos. I probably didn't practice posing as much as I should, because I mean, like I'm already trying to just get my workouts and meal prep done.
Yeah.
So I was just doing the best I can. So I mean, it was definitely nerve-wracking. It's not something that I've ever done before. I didn't really know what to expect, but
Yeah, it's one of those things that it happens so fast.
Yes.
That it's almost like you work for 17 to 20 weeks for so hard, and it's over in 30 seconds. And so I think a lot of people have to take that into context as well, that yeah, you're working hard, and at the end of the day, is all the effort that you're putting in worth the 15 to 20 seconds that you're going to, realize at the end? Now, some people say, yeah, that's what I want to do, and that is totally fine. But keep in mind that, that's where it's really important to have long-term goals, after the competition. This is just a stepping stone sort of thing. And so, it's not the end of the world if that 10 to 15 seconds or 30 seconds doesn't go the way you planned.
Right.
If I can just throw this out here, because I've read a decent amount of blogs as far as people that go for fitness competitions. So what they look for, and you could probably, Ellie, if you can help me out with this, but from a health perspective, when you start going into competitions like this, to my knowledge and my opinion, it starts to border healthy versus unhealthy, because you'll want to get to a point where you're so damn lean and sometimes deficient of all the normal foods that you might intake on a daily basis that it'll start messing with your mind, even just your focus, your concentration, especially how you start carb cycling, and then the mental and physical exhaustion. So I guess just what I'm trying to get out of this is that people that go to get on stage do not try and look like this on a day in, day out basis. And when you hop into a bikini when you're going to the pool, I mean, I think a lot of times, like a Sports Illustrated or a Men's Health or a Women's Fitness, they insinuate that this is the way that you should look at a bikini with these girls on stage. You, I think, out of all people, can confirm there's a hell of a lot of hard work that needs to go into something like this, that you're not going to look like this on a daily basis, and it's not like the pinnacle of health.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I did it the healthy way for the most part. Like, even like carb cycling, I mean, you still have carbs. I did eliminate a few, I eliminated a few foods that I knew weren't working with me. But like, I kept a lot of stuff too. I mean, that last week, peak week was definitely interesting. That's probably, obviously, not something you should do long term. Yeah. And I didn't even dehydrate myself like I should have. Like at the end, like only drinking, I actually stayed kind of like at a half of a liter instead of the recommended 2 cups. So So yeah, I definitely, at all points of the way, it definitely isn't the pinnacle of health for sure. And with that being said, like I think it kind of adds some perspective. Like I said, for me as a woman, like comparing myself to other women's bodies, what's interesting now is that I have a different perspective because I used to look at, like you said, those Sports Illustrated or those fitness models and say things like, oh, it must be nice. But you are totally discrediting all their hard work and you have no idea how much goes into that figure and what they're looking like. And so it kind of puts things in a different perspective for me. Is looking like that all the time worth all the sacrifices that you would have to take to look like that all the time? And is it truly healthy to be that way mentally and physically?
Yep. Right. Couldn't
Well
agree
said.
more.
Yeah, very well said. So I gotta ask now. You've done the walk on stage, you've done the judging, everything's done. How do you celebrate? What did you do? Did you have a drink? Did you go grab something to eat? How did you celebrate that?
Well, I wanted to so bad, but I had the filming of an infomercial the next morning and a photo shoot.
That's right.
So I had to hold off. I had to hold off one more day. But then after that, I celebrated with a big burger and fries and
Nice.
And I tried to drink, but it really hurt my stomach, which was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, unless you have
Yeah.
like an iron stomach coming off of a deficit like that, and where you're eating mostly simple foods and trying to introduce that kind of stuff all at once, it can really wreak havoc. So it doesn't take much to upset a stomach in that situation.
Yeah. So the cheeseburger and fries went down great. The alcohol, not so much. half a drink down, I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna be fun.
Yeah. So maybe so it's been a few weeks since your competition. How has life with Ellie changed since then? How's your post-competition experience been?
Well, I wanted to, I don't know what you called it, like the de-escalation or whatever. What was it called where you
want to reverse diet?
Reverse dieting, there you go. That was really my plan. However, when I came back from Nashville, I was thrown into 8 straight days of shift work. So it's not really what happened. So I kind of came back and I had no time to go grocery shopping, no time to prep. So I kind of just did the best I could for 8 days. Clearly that 7 pounds that I lost during peak week was gone probably after that cheeseburger. That was bad after that cheeseburger. So kind of right now I start back, I did PIO. I'm doing PIO just to kind of give my body like just a little temporary relief from the heaviness.
Sure.
But on Monday I'll start back with the heavy lifting. And I'll be starting back with like a lean diet, like I like to call it 40-30-30 macros. So I start back with that on Monday. I've been kind of, like I said, doing PIO, doing the best I could with my nutrition. And I kind of have a weight that I know I'd like to maintain, a realistic, healthy weight.
Sure.
And kind of I'm just going to stick right there for now while I just try to build muscle and stay semi-lean.
Yeah, no, it's important to, after you come off of a competition, I mean, unless you're doing something like immediately afterwards within a couple of weeks, that, you give your body a little bit of break, you kind of ease back into eating, using reverse dieting to your advantage, so you don't balloon up. I know that's a common problem for people who are coming out of competitions, and it doesn't take much because your body's been in such a depleted state that if you go back to your normal eating, it's going to have really negative effects on your body weight, and you're not going to like it. So but I like your realistic approach to it, and because not everybody is like competition to competition, and so they want to get back to eating normal, or eating ice cream with their kids, or having a piece of apple pie on Sunday afternoon or something. So yeah, you definitely want to be able to enjoy life experiences like that. So I'm glad to hear that you're getting back into that.
Hey Ellie, I'm kind of curious. So when you get, and I mean, I have my own opinion on it, but when you get into, knowing that you're going to go for a competition and you're looking at a solid 8 months worth of training, can you explain from your perspective the kind of laser focus that you need to have, and sort of, what's your mentality when it really gets tough that makes you push all the way through?
Well, that's where I tell you the emotional breakdowns come in because I've always turned to food for my stress, and I couldn't do that. And there were moments like I wasn't perfect. Like I said, the first 3 months, I kind of wasn't really super worried about nutrition. I focused on more like lifting heavy and eating in my macros. Like I think it's called if it fits in your macros. I don't know, Chris, you may know that.
Yep.
Kind of, yeah. So, um, but even 3 months out, I was not perfect. Like I had my moments where I let myself have things that I shouldn't, but for the most part, I think I'm proud of what I did do for what was on my plate. Like speaking of my life, like all the things that I had going for me,
Yeah.
but it really did teach me. One of the things I did take away is it did teach me how to deal with my stress in a different way than food, because that wasn't an option every time I was stressed out, which is always. Um,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like you really have to keep your eye on the prize. For me, what really did it for me was I even posted on the group that at one point I kind of felt narcissistic because you're constantly taking pictures of yourself.
Yeah.
But it like seeing those results keep you going. It shows you
Yep.
that like, and not your results to someone else, it's your results to yourself. So I would take
Yep.
results every week and I would compare them to myself. And even though I was kind of struggling with the internal battle where she looks better than me, she has better abs than me, I could still see myself progressing and that my work that I was putting in was worth it and it was doing something. So that helped me a lot with my focus. There were moments where I deviated from it, um, but you definitely have to keep your eye on the prize. Like you just have to remind yourself why you're doing it. And for the most part, I did that. But there were several times where I just had a complete toddler hissy fit and wanted to give up. and I and just like a toddler, I had my hissy fit and I got up and I put my big girl panties on and I moved on. I had to
Yeah.
decide if I wanted to do this or if I wouldn't because no one was making me do that. No one. It was my
Yep.
choice.
Yep.
So, do I want to finish what I started, or do I want to give up? And it was as simple as that at the end of the day.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great lesson for a lot of people. I mean, no matter what it is, if you're doing a competition or if you're just starting, a push-up program or whatever, commit to what you've said and follow through on your commitment. That will show yourself a lot more integrity and to other people around you that, once you've said you're going to do something, you're going to do it. So awesome. So the question I think everyone wants to know is, are you going to compete next year?
Well, I'm not opposed to it, but um, my husband, like I said earlier, my husband and my friend, it was their idea to start doing it. And so I did it because of them, kind of tagging along with them. And then some along the way, I took over. And my husband decided to back off and not do it because it was just too much with us both trying to do it. I mean, both of us not having carbs was just like not a good situation. Somebody had to be the stable one in the relationship, and it was not me. So,
Yeah.
and I had, so he decided to let me do it because by that point I was in contact with the Beachbody people about the infomercial, and so he just kind of decided to let me take the show and support me. So next year I will be doing the reverse. I will be his cheerleader and supporting him. That being said, I will probably go through the motions with him because it is easier when two people kind of eat the same. Like,
Yeah.
it was really nice that he wasn't ordering a pizza while I was trying to eat grilled chicken and green beans.
Yeah.
So I'll probably sign up and I'll probably go through the motions and I'll probably have fun buying a bathing suit. But to say I'd be as serious, I'd probably do it more for fun and more for I think it would be easier because I already learned what my body responds to and what it doesn't. Like this year was probably more challenging just because
Yeah.
I felt like a science experiment the entire time. Like how many
Yeah.
carbs, how many. So I would probably go into it what I knew and do the best I can, but take back seats when necessary and go into it with a different mindset, just as a personal challenge instead of trying to compete with anyone else other than myself.
That's good advice.
Yeah, props to your husband. I mean, that's
Yeah, it was big of him.
that's awesome, and hopefully the roles reversed will be equally as successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so last question. We're going to wrap things up here. So if someone comes to you and says, Ellie, I want to do this competition, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would definitely say go for it. Do it because any challenge that takes you out of your comfort zone is worth it in the long run. If nothing else, you will learn something about yourself. And to pretty much put your blinders on, remember why you started this and never, like, write it on your bathroom mirror and never lose sight of it, because there will be a lot of things, a lot of negative forces trying to pull you in different directions. So keep your eye on your competition, which is you, and don't worry about anyone else. Put your blinders on and worry about you. Do the best you can and forget about everything else.
Love it.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so that was an incredible interview, Ellie. I really appreciate you spending the time. I know we went a little over, so I appreciate you staying with us. Brendan, Jared, do you guys have anything?
I got one last question.
Sure.
Ellie, what's your soulmate program? What's your soulmate program? Who's your soulmate trainer? What's your favorite workout?
So I would say that I always say his name wrong, but Saji or Saji.
Sagi.
Sagi.
He's probably my soul. As annoying as he can be,
We'll edit that out. Don't worry.
I have to kind of put him like on mute. I mean, it's 4:30 in the morning anyway. I don't need to listen to him, but his workouts probably do best. With that being said, it is kind of a toss-up between Hammer and Chisel and Body Beast. I kind of like to go back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
I think they're both great, and they're similar. Just one has a little more cardio involved.
Yep.
So I like both of them. But for me, soulmate is heavy lifting. Like I was nothing but cardio for a year and a half, and I was just skinny. Like I wasn't even that skinny, but I had like no butt, no curves, nothing. And then weightlifting scared me, but it gives you curves. Like I'm thinking of women. I hope it doesn't give y'all curves.
No, take notice, ladies. Take notice.
For the women,
exactly.
heavy lifting, squatting with a lot of weight, that's what gives you a butt. And so
Yep.
I've fallen in love with the definition it's given me in my arms and my legs. It's given me a different waistline. So for me, heavy lifting with Sagi is
Yeah, that I couldn't agree more. I wish more women had that same opinion. I know weights tend to scare women, or they fear they're going to get bulky or whatever, and that's just simply not going to happen. But totally agree.
And I think what throws a lot of women off is when you lift weights, you get really, really hungry, which kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
Because before doing cardio, I was eating like 1,200, 1,500 calories and satisfied. And then I started lifting weights, and like I just couldn't eat enough. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of women struggle with that too, like feeding their body. So then they have all these cravings to eat more, and they eat more, but then they don't eat healthy, and then they blow up, and then they say, well, heavy lifting caused me to blow up. No, heavy lifting didn't cause you to blow. Heavy lifting caused you to be hungrier, which caused you to eat more cheeseburgers, and that caused you to blow up.
Exactly.
So if you do eat more, you need to eat more, but you need to eat clean and stay on a leaner diet, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Preach it.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for this evening. Again, Ellie, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, sharing all of your information about your journey to the Classic and your competition prep. It's been really insightful. I know that everyone is going to really appreciate this. And why don't you tell everybody where they could find more about you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at ellie.usey. Let me spell that since. So ELLIE and that's Instagram and Snapchat. And on Facebook, it's No Time to Lose Fitness.
And what we'll do, Ellie, is we'll put links on the show notes for anyone who wants to get in touch with you if they have questions about competition prep or want to hear more about your story. And yeah, we'll go from there. So again, thank you again, and keep in touch.
Thank you, and thank you, Chris, for all your help during the competition. And
you bet. My pleasure.
Thanks.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks.
You
See
too.
ya.
Bye.